Good evening. Good evening and welcome. Welcome. We're so pleased to see so many people here tonight in recognition of of our staff years of service and the general public and what I always call the men in the suits, which is our attorneys for our bond reissue. But we all have suits up here too, so I guess we're the same. But anyway, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is November 9th, 2015. This is the legislative meeting of the Board of School Directors of the School District of Upper Dublin. We are in the Cardinal Room. It is 7:03, and I believe the cameras are rolling, and I see looks like the cameras are rolling. So I'd like to begin this evening with, Years of Service is a very special event here in Upper Dublin. I think we've been doing it way back with Bud Brown. I think he started this. I'm not even sure when it started. But every now and then we get somebody who has a significant number of years, and it's a very special honor when we're here to recognize somebody like a Jack Fury, who's been here 40 years in this district. And the stories he can tell, the stories that Jack can tell. So we're so pleased he's here. And to honor Jack, I'd like everybody to please rise, and Mr. Fury will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Fury. I bet in 40 years serving this district, you've never done that. So it's always something new. Always something new, but thank you so much. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Let us move on to the roll call. Ms. Evans?
Mr. Shimeleski. Here. Mrs. Good. Here. Mrs. Hester. Here. Dr. Ludwig.
Here.
Mr. Kim. Here. Mrs. Rothman.
Here.
Dr. Resnick.
Here.
Mr. Sirota. Here. Dr. Levinowitz.
Present. Okay, 9 board members are all here tonight. A special evening. Great. Super. I have a couple of announcements to make tonight, and then we'll get into some of the presentations. Wednesday, November 11th is Veterans Day. I'm sure everybody has that marked off in their calendars. And tonight, on behalf of the district, I would like to wish a happy Veterans Day to the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces. We thank them for their tremendous sacrifices that they have made to defend us and our freedoms that we all too often take for granted. It is our sincere hope that this day finds you safe and comfort, surrounded by loved ones, as we all work towards the day that all of mankind can live together in peace. On Veterans Day, let us remember the service of our veterans, and let us renew our national promise to fulfill our sacred obligations to our veterans and their families who have sacrificed so much so that we can live free. Second announcement, American Education Week was first celebrated in 1921. It began as a part of an effort to raise Americans' literacy after World War I. American Education Week now serves as a special opportunity to shine a light on the great things that schools do. The week presents all Americans with a wonderful opportunity to celebrate public education and honor individuals who are making a difference in ensuring that every child receives a quality education. Each year, American Education Week is celebrated during the last full week before Thanksgiving. This year, American Education Week will be celebrated November 16th through the 20th. The theme for this year's celebration is Great Public Schools, a Basic Right, and Our Responsibility. It highlights the importance of bringing together educators, school staff, parents, students, and communities in a unified effort to support great public schools. Announcements will be made in the building listservs and on our websites regarding the many special events that will be held in all of our buildings that week. The board intends to participate in the celebration and plans to visit all our wonderful schools throughout the week. So principals, get ready. You'll see us there, and I'm sure we'll be finding out some of the wonderful things that are occurring. I already saw a listserv from Mr. Schultz for 2 days at the high school, and we will be visiting all of you. So it's a very special day. The student government report. Emily was unable to be here tonight, but I do have her report. So I am now Emily Hirsch-Gordon, representing the Student Government Association. This is her report for November 2015. The Flying Cardinals have been making their mark this past month with many notable accomplishments. Just this past Friday, our varsity football team, for the first time in Upper Dublin history, went 10-0. 10-0. Emily never gets applause. You see, it's beautiful. Okay, beating Upper Marion 56-13. Anybody graduate from Upper Marion? Good. Okay. Please come support these talented athletes at home this Friday at 7 p.m. against Garnet Valley. That's our first playoff game. It is at home. After we beat Garnet Valley, we'll have another home game here, and then we'll see where it goes then. Hopefully it will be warmer than it was last year for those of you that attended some of those playoff games. The excitement continues this week with the drama department's production of The Importance of Being Earnest. This Wednesday through Saturday at 7:30 p.m., as well as 2 p.m. on Saturday in the Black Box Theater. You won't want to miss this British comedy. Tickets are $12 and can be purchased online at udhstheater.ticketleap.com. The link can be found on the high school homepage or on our school district website, or at the door. Currently, SGA is sponsoring No Shave November. Mr. Schultz, are you still participating in that? Okay. A fundraiser raising money for the American Cancer Society to support prostate cancer research. High school students and teachers find sponsors to donate a set amount of money for every day they do not shave, and participants compete to raise the most money. Upon returning from Thanksgiving break, a competition for Best in Show will be held, where viewers can donate money for their favorite beard, whether based on length, color, or style. Thank you for your continued support in helping the Cardinals in all of their athletic, artistic, and charitable endeavors. And there are some great beards on some of our athletes out there. And Harden from the Houston has a great one, and you see some more and more of some of our football players. Not our football players, but professional football players. Also, for those of you that attended, the second annual Minithon was held this past Saturday night. There were approximately 280 students, chaperones, and parents who came to the event. It was filled with great energy, fun music by our DJ, Justin Harrison Productions. Justin is a 2015 Upper Dublin grad. Games, performances, the line dance, lots of laughter, and even some tears. Our students raised over $27,000. $27,000. As of yesterday, the picture I saw, Mr. Schultz, was $27,378.70. Okay, which will be donated to the Four Diamonds Fund, helping in the fight against pediatric cancer. So a special thank you for all involved in the event, especially Ms. Saxton, Ms. Garrett, Ms. McNamara, and student leaders Ali Wilk and Jake Rosen. Hopefully I got everybody, Mr. Schultz. Ali and Jake are seniors, and a team of 8 other student committee chairs. So congratulations and thank you. Okay. Moving on, superintendent's report. As you can see, Mr. Chmielewski did not become the superintendent. Okay, but the superintendent is not here tonight, and I've asked Ms. Morrison to give us a brief summary as to where Dr. Wheeler is.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Wheeler departed early this morning for China. She's there on an educational tour along with 4 other Montgomery County superintendents. She will be visiting schools in China and learning more about the educational experience there for students, as well as looking for ways that we can partner interculturally. So we wish her all the best while she's in China and look forward to her return.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on now to the presentations. Mr. Schultz.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity tonight to recognize two of our outstanding students. The Eastern Center for Arts and Technology, every month during the school year, recognizes a student for meritorious contributions to the school and for excellence in academics and skills. Usually, Upper Dublin High School has one student recognized over the course of the year, and we recognize that student at the board meeting, and it's a pretty great event. This year, not only do we have two students, but we have two consecutive students. So would Katia Ivanovsky and Nicole Peck please come forward to be recognized? Katya is the Eastern Center Student of the Month for the month of September. She is being recognized for her leadership and for her academic excellence. She is currently serving as the secretary of Pennsylvania's Skills USA and has competed and received awards at both the state and the national level. Nicole is the October Student of the Month at Eastern. She is in the Commercial Arts program and received the award for her performance in the Leadership Program, Skills USA, Hard Work, Dependability, and Excellent Grades. To present these two exceptional young ladies with certificates and to say a few words on their behalf is the president of the Joint Operating Committee for Eastern and our own school board president, Dr. Art Levinowitz.
Okay. I was going to read their background, but Mr. Schultz saved some time because mine would have been a lot longer. So the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology Student of the Month is sponsored by the Eastern's faculty, the Joint Operating Committee, and the Willow Grove Rotary Club to highlight student leadership, excellence, success, and service. Again, as Bob indicated, as Mr. Schultz indicated, only 10 students during the whole year received this award. Eastern has over 475 students. Only 10 students get this award. It's a very special award, and for us in Upper Dublin and for this board, to have two students in a row receive this award speaks very, very highly of what we're doing here at Upper Dublin. I know Mr. Fury can speak about the many students he's recommended to attend Eastern and the successes that these students have. I'll be brief. When we talk about Katya, Mr. Schultz said most of the stuff about Katya and why she received this award. But after graduation from Upper Dublin High School and Eastern, Katya plans to attend Johnson & Wales University for hotel and restaurant management. Her goal is to open a bakery in the Chestnut Hill area. So I'm looking forward. We'll have a line from Upper Dublin, but Katya, we look forward to that. And then when we talk about Nicole, after graduation from Upper Dublin High School and Eastern, Nicole would like to continue her education in commercial arts at Kutztown University, and eventually become an illustrator for children's books. I wanted to emphasize Kutztown because I want to send that message that, you know, when you look at Eastern, it's not the old view that so many people have. You know, kids go to Eastern and they get a job and they're gone and they don't pursue post-secondary education. Many, many students attend Johnson & Wales, Kutztown, Penn State, you know, and are very, very successful. So the programs that we have at Eastern are extremely competitive. I'm very excited about a new program that we will be implementing next year, which is a veterinary science program. So that will begin in September. So again, Katya, I have a certificate from the board. I'll give you this and kindly walk around the board members and shake their hands. Katya. Thank you. And Nicole Peck. No, we're going for three. We're going for 3 students this year. So I'm working on it. Oh, that's right. We're going to take a quick photo. Katya, Nicole, just come back. We're going to take a picture. What Eastern does is they have their students who are in commercial art take the pictures. Like 4 kids. Here, we'll have to have Brooke do it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, board. And it continues to get better and better and better. Okay, we are now up to the years of service recognition, and Mr. Sigafus, Ms. Bray, and I will also assist you guys. Again, congratulations to all of you that are here tonight and those that are not here. We do appreciate you coming tonight and taking the time to be recognized.
Good evening. It is indeed an honor to be our Director of Human Resources and acknowledge and recognize our staff members who have given many years of service to the School District of Upper Dublin, as well as to the Upper Dublin community. I want to thank their family and friends that are with them this evening for sharing their talents and their time with us. Truly, the children of Upper Dublin have been the recipients of that. So thank you for joining us this evening. For the program, I'd like to call the individuals up to receive a small token of appreciation from the district. And just like we did with our students from Eastern, we invite you to go around and shake all of the board members' hands as well. We'll do a little photo op before you travel so that we can memorialize the event of recognizing your years of service. Okay, starting with the 15 years of service recognees, we have Kate Bencheski from 2nd grade teacher at Fort Washington Elementary School. Kate, she couldn't be here with us this evening, so we'll recognize her in her absence then. Next, we have Aurelio Arroyo, our custodian supervisor from Sandy Run Middle School. Feel free to shake the hands of the board members. Next, we have Maureen Broadbent, our secretary at Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School. Okay, I don't believe Sherry Clayton, our custodian from Maple Glen Elementary, was able to join us this evening. Let's recognize her in her absence. Next is Ruta Colombe, our French teacher at Sandy Run Middle School. Is Ruta here this evening? Let's recognize her in her absence as well. Also 15 years of service, Samantha Connolly, English teacher at Sandy Run Middle School. Next is Dana Dahl, 3rd grade teacher at Jarretttown Elementary School. Congratulations. Next to be recognized for 15 years of service, Kathy Dashoff, librarian at Thomas Fitzwater Elementary. Next is Stephanie Fagan, 3rd grade teacher at Jarretttown Elementary School. Next is Carol Gao, kindergarten teacher, Maple Glen Elementary School. Next is Christopher Hayden, math teacher at Upper Dublin High School. Next, celebrating 15 years of service, Susan Hertz, cafeteria office assistant at Maple Glen Elementary School.
Congratulations. I remember when my son took her classes. I remember my son took her classes. Yeah.
Next, we have Paul Johnson, social studies teacher, Upper Dublin High School. I don't believe that Hannah Kim was able to join us this evening, but Hannah Kim, fifth grade teacher, Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School. Also, I don't see Joe Lynn, but Joe Lynn is celebrating 15 years of service as a bus driver in transportation. Joe Lynn. Also, 15 years, Peter Ann McCall, English teacher, Sandy Run Middle School. Couldn't be here this evening, but let's recognize her. Next, we have Robert Miller, science teacher, Sandy Run Middle School. Also celebrating 15 years, Ava Morrison, our Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Administration. Next is Maureen Palazzo, math assistant or aide at Jarretttown Elementary School. Maureen. Next, we have Donna Perrone, school psychologist in the Administration Center. Welcome, Donna. Next, we have Keith Smith, custodian at Sandy Run Middle School. Keith. Get a pin there, Tim. Still with 15 years of service, Davida Smurl Hannigan, special education teacher, Sandy Run Middle School. Couldn't be with us this evening. Also, John Squarey, technology education teacher at Upper Dublin High School. Next, we have Brian Stout, music teacher, Jarretttown Elementary School. Brian. Okay, next is Jennifer Vogel, first grade teacher, so second grade teacher, they're sorry, first grade teacher at Maple Glen Elementary School. And also Sandy Wish, sixth grade teacher at Sandy Run Middle School. Sandy? Congratulations, Sandy. Moving on to 20 years of service, Cindy Bayard, first grade teacher at Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School. Next, I did see Marilyn Bowling, our third grade teacher at Fort Washington Elementary School. Congratulations, Marilyn. Continuing with 20 years, Ellen Fullerton, reading teacher at Jarretttown Elementary School. Next, I did see Jenny Heiss out there. Jenny Heiss, our secretary at Fort Washington Elementary School. Congratulations. Continuing with 20 years, Michelle Hendricks, grade 4 teacher at Fort Washington Elementary School. Also with 20 years, Percy Herder, our custodian supervisor at Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School. Percy. And Jill Lynch, third grade teacher at Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School. Jill here. Next is Fatina Moeller, our Latin teacher at Sandy Run Middle School. Yeah. Also with 20 years of experience, Brenda Ritchie, grade 1 teacher at Fort Washington Elementary School. Also with 20 years of experience, Karen Wolf, secretary at Human Resources and the Administration Building.
I was just watching.
And finishing out the 20 years of service, Melanie Zamicelli, guidance counselor at Sandy Run Middle School. Okay, 25 years of service in the school district. Teresa Daly, sixth grade teacher at Sandy Run Middle School. Deborah Einhorn, guidance counselor, Fort Washington Elementary School. Debbie. And Randy Winheim, reading teacher at Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School. Congratulations. Our next category is 30 years of service, starting with Sandy Burns, secretary in the administration building, the curriculum department. Next, Lucy Davis, special education teacher at the Upper Dublin High School. Couldn't be with us this evening, but we'll recognize her in absence. Next is James Berlini, social studies teacher at Sandy Run Middle School. James? Next we have, continuing with 30 years of service, Victoria, or Vicky Moyo, food service supervisor here at Upper Dublin High School. Congratulations. And also 30 years of service, Eileen Welsh, kindergarten teacher at Thomas Fitzwater Elementary School. Okay, and 40 years of service category, as you heard earlier, John Jack Fury, guidance counselor here at Upper Dublin High School.
Jack, congratulations.
Again, I want to congratulate all of our staff members and their multiple years of service being recognized this year. I would ask another round of applause for all of our honorees for this evening's program. I would also invite any of our most senior honorees for this evening, anyone from our 25 years of recognition or above. Would you like to say a few words? Come on up to the podium, and we'll let you address the audience and family members at home that might be watching. Any takers? Okay.
No
With that,
takers.
I'm going to turn the program over to our president, Dr. Levinowitz.
Thank you very much. Again, last chance if any of our 25, 30, or 40-year people would like to say anything. Coach Fury, did you want to say anything? You're good? Okay. You have the floor, sir. Okay. Well, again, congratulations. And we really do, as a board, we do appreciate everybody coming out tonight and to be recognized. I think it says a great deal, about what we do in Upper Dublin, that you take the time out tonight, to visit us and be honored. And we look forward to seeing all of you, or maybe just most of you. I don't know. It could be all of you in another 5 years. Okay. Thank you. I know you want to stay, but you need to go back and check in on your Chromebooks and check the assignments. So if you need to go. Again, thank you very much.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah. This one. Huh? Which one? Pacha? Pacha was the first one.
We're checking.
Sorry.
We have another one.
Hope everybody got the right. Or welcome.
No, not next one. Not this one. Not Luke.
You're very welcome.
That was something we said.
Yeah.
Forgot these shirts were yellow.
God, I hope everybody got their skin.
Yeah, they're really nice. They're gold for the 50th.
I do have them.
Can't have I can't get one. There's only 10. So she said there's only 10.
It was good.
Okay, we are up to our last presentation of the evening, and I do apologize that I thought everybody would stay. I can't imagine why they left. And this is shocking. But anyway, Ms. Berry, would you like to lead us and start us?
Certainly. This evening, we have four gentlemen with us to talk about the advanced refunding of General Obligation Bonds Series of 2008. And first of all, Glenn Williard from Public Financial Management will be speaking to us and telling us about where we are in the process and estimated savings. Glenn, you've seen Jamie at the last 2 or 3 meetings. Glenn has a wide variety of experience, including the successful funding of thousands of school district projects, as well as other local governmental financings. So at this time, we'll turn it over to Glenn, and then he will be followed with Mr. George Magnata, our bond attorney, bond counsel from Saul Ewing.
Okay, good evening. It's nice to be here. There's a document at your workstation with a blue cover page I'm going to talk from. I think it's just not.
It's on. I think Glenn just needs to speak into it.
I just got to lean over. Okay, sorry. I believe Jamie described the refunding of the Series A of 2008 at an earlier meeting. But over the years, it has become very important to keep your bonds what we call as bank qualified, which is when you can issue 10 million or less in a calendar year. And so there's a plan before you that we have in final form for you to pass if you'd like to, whereby we would carve some of the 2008 bonds into a series that could be refunded yet this calendar year in 2015. The bonds have to be priced and closed before the end of the year. And then we're able to do a second piece of that refunding perhaps as early as bond pricing in December to settle sometime just after January the 1st. And then both of those are bank qualified. They get slightly better interest rates, and they get a better call feature, which means you could refund them sooner in the future should things warrant. So that's a couple of the benefits of the plan. Just by way of highlights, if you go to page number 3, The way the refundings, savings might appear are laid out in the blue. That's the first piece that we would do as a series of 2015. The bulk of the savings would be either in the current school year and the second school year, and then there's a few spread out over time. And then in the red column, based on where we see interest rates right now, it looks like the savings would be spread out in column number 7 there over 4 different school years. So the total of that is in column number 8. That's what that's where we we think the bond market might be as we do these 2 different refundings. There's a little more detail on the next couple of pages, but on page 5, this is the Series A of 2008. This is all of the bonds, sort of right now if you do nothing. In column number 3, you can see those are the old interest rates. They were very attractive at the time, 7 years ago, but their rates are much lower today. If you go to page number 9, in page number 9, in column number 3, that's about where the interest rates would be today. So you can see we're refunding old 4% bonds with, call it, 3% bonds on column number 9. And then we projected about the same thing for 30 days later or so for the bond issue that settles in 2016. What's before you this evening is what's called a parameters resolution. That's the very last page of my handout. This is a not to exceed bond resolution as long as we can achieve some of these savings as they've been described. You're being asked to approve on what's on page 17 is $20,545,000. We would expect to issue much less than that, but just because we don't know the exact amounts and the interest rates, this is the resolution you're being asked to approve with not to exceed numbers, but it appears to be the savings that I've described on the earlier page. And then there would still be some bonds left outstanding to tend to in the outgoing years. So that's a 5-minute summary of the math. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? The slight bump in interest rates since Friday, I guess, when the jobs numbers came out, this is still good?
Yes, I think the muni markets may be up 5 to 10 basis points over the last sort of 5 or 6 business days. I think Mike can comment a little bit more on that. But there's still not a lot of Pennsylvania bonds around, so
yes,
we expect strong support for the bond issue.
Okay, thank you.
Question, the maturity of the new bonds, is it the same as the old bonds, or is it a different term?
No, it's the same.
Yeah.
If you go to page 3, maybe is the best way to show that. In number 8, it shows the savings spread out to 2030. So we go to the same point in time in 2030, so it's about 15 years.
Thanks.
So we have not extended the debt.
This was referendum. We talked about it last time you were here. Was referendum debt?
No.
You'll talk about
Part of
that?
it was, maybe I'll let George.
I was just going to say, I think that might be a good
George.
segue to Mr. Bagnata,
I planned it
bond
that way.
canceling.
Good evening. In front of you is a resolution. As Mr. Williard had stated, it's a parameters resolution that permits the bonds to be issued in one or more series, and for the underwriters to take advantage of the market when the market is ripe, and also to do at least 2 series, that is one in 2015 and at least one in 2016, to take advantage of the bank eligibility rules, which will render you a better interest rate because you're straddling 2 calendar years, and under the tax rules, that will assist in lowering the rates. And yes, these bonds will be primarily electoral debt, but also non-electoral. Mostly electoral. In 2008, it was mostly electoral debt for the new high school, but some non-electoral.
Question?
Which is not electoral debt?
The 2008 A's, when they were issued, were primarily electoral debt. Some of it was non-electoral. So these bonds proportionately will be electoral and non-electoral in the same manner. So in front of you is a resolution that is a parameters resolution, authorizes up to $20,800,000 of debt within certain parameters with a not-to-exceed interest rate of 6%. I don't think that anyone intends to be anywhere near that interest rate, with certain parameters, with a savings of at least 3% threshold in 5,000 denominations. $5,000 denominations. It appoints Manufacturers and Traders Trust Company as the paying agent. It appoints RBC Capital Markets as the underwriters. It establishes a sinking fund. It authorizes us on behalf of the school district to file with the Department of Community and Economic Development the appropriate filings that need to be that are necessary. It authorizes redemption provisions, at least 10-year call provisions. Authorizes the distribution of an official statement. Authorizes the refunding of the 2008 bonds. The application and calling of the 2008 bonds, the calling on November 15, 2016 of those bonds shows the anticipated savings of the 2015 bonds, which are anticipated to be settled on 12/15/2015. Any questions?
I have
Just-
one.
Yeah. Where's that, Joe?
You said at least one issue in 2016? Can you elaborate? I thought it was one, but is it,
That is
could be
what-
more than one?
That is what is contemplated, one in 2015 and one in 2016.
And also for the board, pages B2 and B3 shows the electoral debt and the non-electoral debt, so you can see that breakdown.
That's correct.
It's mostly electoral debt, as you indicated.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't hear you call, when are these callable?
They'll have 10-year call protection.
Oh, is that different?
No.
Not more than 10 years.
So in
Excuse me.
5 years, we can look again at these? Wow.
If interest rates are advantageous.
Yeah, yeah. I think that-
If I could, if there's no additional questions, or we can come back to Mr. Magnana, please. Mr. Lillis from RBC Capital Markets, if he doesn't trip.
Auspicious beginning. I just want to make a quick market comment. I think the president made a comment about rates going up a little bit on Friday. You may have heard that also or read about it, that the employment numbers came out and they were a lot stronger than expected. And actually, leading up to that meeting, rates had actually creeped up a little bit because some economic reports had come out that were, showing the economy being, a little bit stronger. And then when these figures came out, the employment figures, which are one of the most important economics reports that come out, that kind of gave even more, maybe people made everybody think that, I think there may be a really good likelihood the Fed may raise rates at their December meeting, which is in mid-December. Now, one thing I think Glenn made a comment about that, the numbers that you saw tonight take that into account. There's still some conservatism built into these numbers. And going forward, between now and the next Fed meeting date, which is, as I mentioned, mid-December, that if we see stronger economic reports coming out that show the economy, is reinforce the idea that it's stronger, we're thinking the rates may go up a little bit, but maybe not all that much, because many of those in the industry think that, the increase, the Fed increase is already priced in, or it's already taken into account. That tends to be the case with investors, they're always looking ahead. So, if that would be the case, we're not anticipating it would hurt the savings all that much. And then if figures come in, economic reports come out that are weaker, it could help. But, that's where we are right now. Be happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay, so, last time you were here, we spoke about how we were going to distribute the savings. Did we make a change to that?
We've had discussed for over a couple of months between Finance Committee meetings and a legislative meeting whether we could pull out or capture part of the savings during the current 15-16 year. But due to this timing of substantial, in fact, $6 million debt payment, not just on this bond issue, but others, that needs to be made this week, minimal savings will be taken in the current year, and most of it will be pushed, obviously, most of it will be pushed to future years. In this first refunding, a big portion of that will be in the 16-17 year. And that Ms. Doyle explained, and I'm sure any of the gentlemen here could also explain that had to do with taking the older bonds or the bonds further out and getting the savings on those now. And when we go to do the second refunding or the second phase, the savings will be over, I think, 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking at page of the blue, page 9 and page 15. Those would show me our savings each. Oh, page 3, I'm sorry. Okay.
It's in multiple locations.
Well, it looks like you want me to look at 3. Okay.
Or you can just see it side by side on page 3. Column
Okay.
6 is the 2015 bonds,
Okay.
and then 7, and then 8's just the total.
Okay. So the total right now is 1.176 million savings.
Yeah, and as Mike said, if we could literally do both of these today, it would be a little bit higher than that. So we have some cushion built in.
The savings would be higher.
In other words, have anticipated a move in
Right,
interest
we
rates
did, yeah.
before we can settle on the second.
Okay, so if the board votes to move forward with this, the sale would be when?
Well, the first one, we're
first
tentatively
one.
set up for November the 19th, and then it would still settle in this calendar year around December 22nd. I think as Mike had mentioned, we may be able to price the second bond issue beginning in December, depending on how the stars align and whether we'd like to go ahead or not, or we could delay that into January. So
Okay, do they have to come back, Ms. Bray, for the second, or we're doing everything
I
tonight?
think this would be the last official action the board takes, and this would be the last time you see us.
Wow.
We'd be happy to come back.
At least
Now-
for a year or two,
Now-
maybe,
now-
for at least a year.
Ms. Doyle did indicate that if we sold the bonds, that perhaps someone would be here on the 19th, since we have a Finance Committee
Oh,
meeting.
to give us an update.
Yes. But, I don't know.
Okay, any questions from the board? Okay, what I'd like to do now is open up community input just for the bonds, so that the gentleman can respond if there are any questions pertaining to them, and if not, then they can leave the meeting. So is anybody from the community would like to address the board on the bonds? Mr. Schultz? Okay, anybody? Okay, seeing none, we'll close community input on the bond, and thank you, gentlemen, very much. And we're hoping for good news. Thank you. Ms. Bray?
Thank you.
Okay, should we vote on this item so they can hear the outcome of it? I thought we'd do that. now? Because
If-
maybe,
If that meets
Yeah,
with
if
the solicitor's
Dr.
approval
Resnick-
of changing our,
can we do that now, I think?
We accept the public comments, so it's fine to move forward.
that just
Yeah,
wanted
just
to be
on the
certain.
bond, so,
And this will need to be a roll call vote, please,
okay. Okay,
Okay,
so
when we get there.
how many items we have, Dr. Resnick, for this?
Well, we were just going to do number 5 on page 4,
Okay,
approving the parameters bond resolution for an amount not to exceed $21,800,000 bond sale. It is recommended the board discuss and take action on a request to approve the attached parameters bond resolution authorizing the issuance of one or more series of general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $21,800,000 at a future date or dates for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of the school district's outstanding general obligation bonds, Series A of 2008, and accept the related bond purchase agreement via negotiated sale and authorize the appropriate individuals and school district officers to execute all the necessary documents related to this refunding program, including but not limited to future addendums to the bond purchase agreement, setting forth the final terms of such series of bonds within the parameters set forth in said resolution.
okay, is there, you're making that motion?
That's a
Okay,
motion.
is there a second? Second, Mr. Sirota. Comments or questions from the board? Just want to point out again that the savings that are estimated is after the expenses to move forward with this parameter resolution. So that's already taken out of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Roll call vote? Evans?
So, yes or no vote?
Yes. Yes is in favor, no is not in favor.
Mr. Shimeleski? Mrs. Good?
Yes.
Mrs. Hester?
Yes.
Dr. Ludwig?
Yes.
Mr. Kim?
Yes.
Mrs. Rothman?
Yes.
Dr. Resnick?
Yes.
Mr. Sirota?
Yes.
Dr. Levinowitz?
Yes. Okay, 9 yeses, there are no, okay, so we're good. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we would like to open up the meeting for general community input. This is our first community input. There'll be another community input at the end of tonight's meeting. And you have 4 minutes. Please state your name, part of the township you are from. Ms. Kuznets, Fort Washington. I just saved you 5 seconds. That could come and haunt me, I don't know.
Wait, what?
That could come and haunt me, I don't know.
Okay, so yeah, Jen Kuznets, Fort Washington. I was at the detracking meeting the other day, and I had asked how much the district is planning on spending to help with detracking. We talk about, additional aides in the classroom and co-teaching, and we need the proper supports in place, and sounds like we need to allocate some money for that. So I was just curious as to how much. It makes me nervous when we say we don't know how much, and we have to we're passing this maybe in December. The budget's due in January, or a first draft of the budget, I think, is due in January. So there's got to be a number if you're planning on spending. So what it makes me feel is that you're not spending or going to spend any money at this time, and you're going to take maybe a wait-and-see approach, and then if it fails, start throwing money at it. And I don't really think that that is a good approach. So I'm just wondering, and that's just an assumption because we don't have a number and I haven't heard a number. So I'm wondering if I can get a number. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anita Brister, Fort Washington. That's a good question, so I'm curious to know the answer too, because in my personal opinion, for this to be successful, the detracking, you will need a lot of support, and you talked about co-teachers, but what does that mean? Does that mean a co-teacher or support teacher in every track 2 class? And one thing that did disturb me, there is a price attached to that. You as the board should know that before you vote. We as the community would like to know it. But it did disturb me a little bit at the meeting that basically a scenario was described where children are already struggling in science, in level 2 biology, children that might have been at a different level previous to this. And if a lot of children are failing, they're obviously not getting any support. These are, even though you haven't technically started detracking, kids were encouraged to go into this, and now they're failing. And the attitude was, like, we'll deal with it, but they're already failing, okay? So their supports aren't there. And I just think if this has even a remote chance of being successful, to be quite honest, if it has a remote chance, not only do you need the supports, I think you need much smaller class sizes. I know Mrs. Morrison said the class sizes will be lower. That's possible, but I'm not even sure the board is totally aware of this because I had to put in a right to know to get the high school class information. Class size is not in every board agenda, any board agenda. Many of them are very high, 26, 27, 28. So let's hope they come down, but that's 25, 26. It's not low. And anyway, the only other thing I wanted to ask about tonight, because this is important for this potential realignment committee, which starts in December, I thought there would be an enrollment update by now. I was kind of hoping it would be tonight, but it obviously isn't. And I don't mean the Montgomery County Planning Commission enrollment update. I mean, the district needs to look at actually this year's enrollment. Something obviously is off in the Montgomery County Planning Commission update. So the district needs to do a new enrollment update. And I don't know what this planning, the task force, which I'm supposed to be a member of, what data are we going to have in December if there's been no enrollment update? So when do you plan to have that? And I mean for the whole public. The task force is going to need it, but the public needs it too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brister.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name's Jim Breslin. I'm a Fort Washington resident. I have a son who's a junior here, a son who's a sophomore here, and my daughter will be here next year. I also just took over as president of the school's baseball booster club program. So I was here to thank you for your time and your consideration with the varsity home run fence. The one thing I can tell you about it, excuse me, is since last year, perhaps maybe years before, these guys really worked hard, and I mean the players. We just showed up. They had car washes. They had something called a 100-inning game, clinics where they gave back down to young kids, and their target was to get to where we are right now and tonight. I think you've seen some description here. I think you know about what it is we're after and why. So I'm here to say thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Okay? Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Anyone else? No. Okay. Okay, that will, we'll close round one of community input. A number of questions regarding the costs for, well, first, the statement was made, the remote chance of this realignment being successful. I definitely do not agree with that remark. This program, the realignment will be successful. The statement was made, the remote chance of this program being successful, of detracking being successful. Well, it will be successful. It's been successful in many of the districts around us. And again, we have to provide the appropriate support and staff, and that's what we heard the other night. I can't continue commenting on this, but maybe I can turn it over to some of our administrators in terms of what process we are using to come up with those specific costs. Ms. Morrison?
There are several different scenarios being considered. Our high school administrative team partnered with our Pupil Services Office and Supervisor of Special Education, as well as the Curriculum Office, to determine what 3 different scenarios might look like in terms of support. And I believe that those discussions are firmly underway, and there will be an update coming up very soon regarding those scenarios.
I think one of the key variables in this that's really, really important, and it has started last year, continuing this year, is the professional development for our staff. Staff need to attain a full understanding of what it means to differentiate, to flexibly group, and to meet the range of needs of all learners. That's not more bodies, that's not more staffing. We have to make sure that foundationally all staff members have an understanding and ability to do that effectively. And professional development has started last year for them and will continue throughout this year and moving forward, because that's an ongoing process.
But I see it as the three of you working together to accomplish this. Director of Pupil Services, Technology, and Curriculum and Instruction, working together and determining what kinds of additional supports. And I know there has been discussions already, and I think shortly, I think we'll be able to give some dollar amounts to what we need. Ms. Bray, I know you've been working with Dr. Wheeler and Cabinet to come up with, and Mrs. Sigafus too, to come up with numbers. and
Well,
staffing.
actually, we're just discussing the scenarios at this point. We haven't tried to start costing things out because we have to come up with the scenarios and then figure out the staffing, which we'll be doing.
And I think the point that Ms. Brisper made, which is accurate, is, and Ms. Kuznets made, is we are looking at a preliminary budget in January, so come December, those items need to be, I assume we're going to get the notebooks or something in December. So hopefully is that correct?
Certainly we'll be passing or have information available in December. One of the unfortunate things when we have a budget this early in the cycle is that there will be a number of revisions as we go through the process every year. We have to pass a preliminary budget in January, but there'll be a number of times and changes as the plan that is chosen and to be moved forward becomes firm.
Yeah, and I believe Dr. Wheeler has also indicated that we're not only looking at what the additional costs are, but we are looking at what we're doing now and looking to reallocate some of the things that we're doing, or some of the staffing that we have. Is that?
That's absolutely true. Dr. Wheeler and I have met with, we've had at least 14 different meetings with different administrators, but sometimes it's difficult to talk about how you can reallocate or change funding moving forward for the current programs. So we're continuing to work on that when she returns as far as budget, but we are looking at it in a very different process than we have in past.
Okay. Anything else from the board on that? Mr. Sirota?
This might be more of a question. So in December, so the plan was in December we would have something to discuss or vote on regarding detracking. Is that still the plan? And if so, what form does that take? I mean, I gather it won't be the final picture, because the final picture probably won't be the final picture until the end of the budget season. So what is it that we'll be talking about next month?
I believe that Dr. Wheeler will be bringing forward to the board a motion to restructure 9th grade in 2015-16 and then follow with 10th grade in 2016-17 as per the board presentation and then the parent forum last week.
And I think where we would see it most obviously would be in the course of study for next year. Mr. Schultz, which we're getting ready, you're starting to work on the course of study. So when do we approve that course of study, or what? Yeah, please.
I don't know exactly what the motion is going to look like. The Education Committee meetings have taken on a different type of discussion than those that I'm familiar with in the past. I do know that we are planning on discussing the program of studies at the next Education Committee meeting, so there should be opportunity for these exact discussions. I believe the board motion will include the deletion of courses that would be necessitated by restructuring in
That would be it.
16-17.
Yeah.
My impression from Dr. Wheeler, and I don't want to speak for her, and I hope I'm being accurate, is that we're not going to be voting for an amount of money for this. We're going to be voting for the restructuring. That's going to be the motion. But accompanying the motion, we will have some indication of the approximate cost. It may not be final, but hopefully in the form of we're going to hire 3 new aides in addition to some of the reallocation of staff. And I hope it's in that format.
Okay.
And the education meeting is going to be the
November
last Monday of November, which
November
is
30th.
30th.
November 30th.
Not the first Monday in December.
May I make a comment about the agenda for the Education Committee meeting? It may be the case that the proposal and full update for our program of studies will actually be discussed at the January meeting because it doesn't make sense to discuss something that has not been passed by the board.
Right. I would think we were discussing the restructuring, but then there will be a month lag before the implications of that for the program of studies. That's basically what you were saying?
That's right.
Okay. Any other questions regarding the high school realignment? Or the detracking, right. Okay, we had some question. We had a question regarding middle school realignment. The enrollment update. Ms. Bray, when do you plan on presenting that to, or sharing that with the public and the board? I know it's not hard. I mean, we can put that together.
Sure. No,
Yeah,
it'll be shared in December. With all the activity going on with the bond refunding and everything, it might have been at November Finance Committee meeting, but most likely we need to have that at a public meeting. So December the 14th, I think it would be the target time.
And Ms. Brister is correct that when you look at the county report, that there are some significant issues and numbers that they projected for this year that were off. So that leads one to believe that I think our numbers, our estimates are going to be a lot better than what they projected.
Just two things, though. We've had some significant turnover as far as real estate transfers, 60 homes, and so when that, in 1 month, and we did that multiple months, which is great for our real estate transfer tax line. I'll put that plug in now. But it also has usually some implications. People without children, retirees, are moving out, and people with children are moving in. So when I do the enrollment study, I will be highlighting some of those other ancillary things that we have found out, because you're certainly right. We were really concerned. Dr. Levinowitz and I talked several times about what kindergarten enrollment would be. It was supposed to be really low, and then it wasn't.
If your kindergarten numbers are much higher than was projected, that kind of 13 years right there of much higher numbers, obviously. Okay. Any questions or regarding the Mr. Breslin's here? I think Mr. Griner's here. Mr. Wall is here. Do we have any questions at all at this point regarding the baseball home run fence? Is there any comments on that? We can wait till we get to it in the agenda, and then if there are questions, then the administration can respond. Okay, but we'll get to that when we get to that item in the agenda. Mr. Sirota, anything I missed, sir?
No, but I just want to briefly go back to Mrs. Brister's comment about the enrollment study and the task force. So we're reconstituting that task force, and she said we do need that study before the task force needs it, which may or may not be on the first meeting, but we do need to make sure we meet whatever deadline that is. If that happens to be before our December meeting, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe the two major items that we need is is of course the enrollment projections, but also that very difficult building utilization, the elementary schools utilization. How many rooms do we have? In addition, how many rooms we have? What are the larger rooms? What can they accommodate? And that needs to be prepared for that task force. Okay.
Do we yet have a set of what the topics are going to be in which months for the realignment task force?
I think Dr. Wheeler is working on that. I don't know if anybody, do we have that here? No?
No. All right.
I think Dr. Wheeler is starting to outline what the topics are going to be for each of those meetings. Okay. Okay, are there any other comments, questions? Anything else? Board? Okay, let's move on to the announcements or communications. Ms. Bray?
There are none to my knowledge this evening.
Okay. Minutes? Welcome, troop number
542.
542. Thank you. You're late. Do you have a late pass or? Thank you for joining us.
Mr. President, if we
Yes, sir.
could have a motion and a second to approve the October 12th, 2015 legislative meeting minutes, as well as committee meeting minutes from 917 Facilities, 917 Finance, and the 10-5 Education Committee.
So moved.
Okay, Dr. Ludwig made the motion. Is there a second? Second. Who's that? Ms. Rothman.
Ms.
Okay,
Rothman.
thank you. I know you. Okay. Any comments or questions, edits on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. We'll turn the page. Education Committee report recommendations. Curriculum first, Dr. Ludwig.
There are two motions for tonight. One is student activities. There are two student activities. One is the 2015 Pennsylvania Thespian Society Conference in York, PA. This is December 3rd to 5th, 2015, to attend the annual State Thespian Conference. Approximately 50 students from Upper Dublin Theater Program, accompanied by 2 chaperones, plan to travel by rental bus and participate in workshops, view and critique shows of their peers, and meet other thespians and theater scholars in the state. There will be overnight accommodations in a hotel for 2 nights. The cost of the trip is $250 per student and will be paid by the students. The cost of 1 substitute each for 2 chaperones for 2 days is $599.52. And the second one is to approve the 2016 Summer Young Readers Program. It's recommended that the board approve this program to be held at Upper Dublin High School during the summer of 2016. This program is a joint effort between the School District of Upper Dublin and the Pennsylvania Writing and Literature Project at Westchester University. It offers a 2-week program in July, running Monday through Friday for a half day. The program, we don't have to read it.
Oh, you don't have to. Go ahead, finish.
Okay.
Just for the future.
We didn't really read it at the Education Committee, so I thought, but anyway. The program can accommodate up to 75 youngsters, approximately half of whom are Upper Dublin students. Jamie Adler, district teacher and teacher consultant to the program, will be the site coordinator. This has been a highly successful and well-attended program in the past.
You want to do the conferences too? Or?
It is also, the second motion is to approve the conferences on the attached page. It's the first page in the attachments packet.
Yep. Page A1. Okay, we have a motion. Student activities, there are 2 items, and then we also have the approved conferences. Dr. Ludwig made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Sirota. Any comments or questions regarding those 3 items? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Technology report, Mr. Sirota?
No motions tonight.
No motions tonight, okay. Student services report, Mr. Kim?
No motions tonight.
Thank you. Gosh, that's unusual. Okay. Okay, moving on to facilities, Mr. Chmielewski?
Okay. Thank you. There are 6 facilities motions. The first one is recommended that the board approve a contract with Aramark Corporation to continue the Aramark Energy Program throughout the district in the amount of $12,500. And this was covered in our facility meeting. I move approval on that. Second item, it's recommended the board approve a contract with Snyder Hoffman Associates for the plans and specifications for the replacement of boilers at Fort Washington Elementary School. As the 2012 bond fund item also was covered in the committee meeting. Third item, it's recommended that the board approve a contract with Snyder Hoffman Associates for design proposal for electrical infrastructure upgrades at Thomas Fitzwater Elementary. Again, a 2012 bond fund item that was covered in committee meeting. And the fourth item, it's recommended the board ratify a contract to Gildan Painting Company to paint 3 buildings at the Administration Center for the amount of $10,600, and that will be a 2015-16 general fund item. Move approval on that one. Number 5, it's recommended the board ratify a contract with Hirschberg Mechanical in the amount of not to exceed $12,500 for plumbing services. This item was not covered in committee, so I'll read the background. Due to the medical leave of district's plumber, Hirschberg Mechanical provided a quote for $1,360 a week for a plumber to work solely for the Upper Dublin School District on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 3:30 p.m. for 16 scheduled hours per week at a rate of $85 per hour. And this will be a 2015-16 general fund item. I move approval on those items 1 to 5.
Second.
Okay, can we have, Ms. Good, I believe, second that. Any comments or questions, items 1 through 5? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
Okay, there's one last item. It's recommended the board approve a contract with Crown Fence Company for the installation of a home run fence. That's for the Upper Dublin hitters, not for their opponents, for the varsity baseball field at Upper Dublin High School in the amount of $14,995. Background, the varsity baseball field has a rain garden in right field and 2 storm drains in left field, which are in the field of play. Both impact the ability to play the game in an unimpeded fashion. The new fence would prevent players from entering these locations and keep the playing area to a defined space. The baseball boosters will contribute $5,000 to this project. There were 3 bids received, and Crown was the low bid, and this would be a 2015-16 general fund item. I move approval on this item.
Second.
Okay. Second? That's good?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we have first and a second. Comments and questions now, please. Dr. Ludwig?
I have a question. I'm not sure who it's for. The question is to is this a safety issue? Is it, are we keeping people out of a certain area because there's a risk to them? Is it, what's the justification for the fence?
We're coming up to the podium, starting in left field. Stagwell.
Thank you. It is primarily a safety issue. It's to help prevent our players, primarily our outfielders, obviously out there, from running into the storm grades that are solid, rock solid concrete, and the rain garden, which has all kinds of, it drops down just past the outfield. So yes, safety.
Do we have anything there now?
No,
Don't we have a temporary fence up?
not anymore.
Okay.
As-
They just took it down.
Oh, I was going to
Yeah, I'm
say,
sorry.
as of last week, it was there.
Yeah, they just took it down.
Okay. Just, you need to come up to the mic, Mr. Breslin. Okay. Banning second. Okay, yeah, please introduce yourselves again. That was Mr. Wall, who was a teacher and the head coach?
Yeah, yes, sir. I didn't know if you wanted me to expand on the temporary fence piece or not. No.
Maybe Mr. Breslin will.
Again, I'm Jim Breslin with the Booster Club, And I do a lot of the work for UDJ on all the fields. So the minute the school's done with it, we put that temporary fence up, and it stays up through the fall ball season for our own protection. That fence, plastic, PVC, took me 25 minutes to take it down yesterday after the last pitch in the last game. So it really is just a plastic fence. It has no, doesn't meet any of the requirements, I think, either that you'll see, that recommendations that PIAA may have. So we put it up when the school's done, and we take it down right after our last fall ball game.
Okay. Mr. Griner, I saw you. Do you have anything to add, sir? Or? Okay. I saw you come up. I thought you were batting third, and then Mr. Schultz would be cleanup. Okay. Okay, we have somebody. Mr. Schimleski would like to pitch a question.
Okay, I was wondering, and I did question last week the idea of are there any regulations from PIAA about any kind of fence and any kind of structure that would define the field of play, or are we flying, kind of blind?
Well, we're not flying blind, but there are no recommendations or regulations. It is pretty much as far as there's some what they state in the rule book is just parameters. It's just suggestions. There's nothing hard case where it must be this amount of feet from home plate at this point or at any point in the outfield fence. There isn't any specifications or requirements where it has to be a certain type of material or a certain height. We just recommend the chain link, the one that we have a quote for, because of durability and costs being fiscally responsible. The temporary fence, that's going. It already is falling apart, and that's, I think, the second one that we're on since we've been over there on that field.
At other schools, are there typically a certain type of construction of fencing or whatever? Is chain link generally what you see out there, or is it something else?
No, it is chain link. That's the method of choice, just because of costs. We can't put a fully padded outfield wall up there like Citizens Bank Park. And the ones that we have been playing on that do have temporary fences, it's a cycle. We've seen snow fences out there, orange snow fences out there, and then the next year we see something else, and they're at different distances, and the snow fence is not ideal for play either. Okay.
Are there any pads or anything particularly that you would have fixed to the top of a chain link fence to kind of keep people from getting caught on it?
Absolutely. There's it's fence piping, and it basically is PVC pipe, thick. It looks like drainage pipe that you would attach to a rain gutter. That gives a rounded, smooth edge to the top to help prevent anybody from getting caught up on it at all.
Okay, I did take a walk over there last week and looked at the field and the hazards that were discussed in the committee meeting, and I do understand that concrete structures in the outfield are not ideal, and that we do need to, in some way, demark the field of play. So I support this recommendation, and hope my colleagues do on the board also.
Thank you very much.
Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, to me, this is kind of a common sense safety thing. I'd also like to really thank the Booster Club for collaborating with the district and coming up with, that's really helpful, and it shows a lot of commitment to the kids and the safety of our kids and the program.
Thank you.
If I could, just one comment. We have a safety evaluation of all of our facilities every year, and I think this is a great idea because like UDJA, which I believe Mr. Breslin referred to earlier, it's a terrific time anytime there's synergy between the school district and a group. But I also cringe as your CFO and the person in charge of insurance risk when we think that there's a true safety issue. There are some, we bring them to you and we remedy them. I think this is a project that has merits, several merits, but I do not want the board to think that we're not looking out for the safety of our athletes and students at all times.
Mr. Sirota.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is, and I'll ask both of them and then you can answer. Why is some of the fence 5 feet high and some 8 feet high? And is there any concern that we're trading one risk for another with kids, slamming into the fence or trying to reach over and jump and, hurting themselves in just a different way than they might be hurting themselves now, where now they're only risking hurting themselves in a couple of small areas. We're going to put a fence all the way across and have that many more opportunities for a student to hit the fence.
Sure. As far as the differences in height, the 8 foot in right field is to help make up for the lack of overall distance to what would be the rain garden, to make it more of a challenge, so to speak, to keep it simple. Because it is barely not even 300 feet down the right field corner. Now, granted, you have Yankee Stadium, which is far less than that. But, so we raise the height of the fence to make it more of a challenge for our left-handed hitters to hit it over.
Works at Fenway.
Yeah, Fenway's shorter, right? Yeah, you got the pesky pole. Anyways, you have the differences in, or the safety aspect of it. Running into a fence feels a lot better than running into concrete block. Just to keep it simple, and this is something that all baseball players are aware of having that sense of parameters, that fence, and having a random concrete object in the middle of an outfield. That's something you can't train for. You can't practice for that. And we've had, I would say, this will be the third season on this field. Over the last 2 seasons, we've had players running and literally, Stephen Bell, one of them, catching a fly ball as they run in between the 2 concrete storm grates. So you can imagine my level of intensity and cringing inside, praying that he does not run into this. Now, as far as ground rules go, it doesn't make it a manageable game to cut out those places out there in that field of play. So to answer your question, when you put up a fence, you can also install, which would not be anything that has to do with this project, but there's something called a warning track that comes before the fence. And the warning track is made of, at Phillies, it's made of crushed volcanic rock, like lava rock. And so when a player is running, they feel the differentiation between the grass and the gravel and lets them know that the fence is coming and you better slow down. Now, how we train for that is we throw pop flies up to them and they count how many steps it takes for them to get to the fence. So in that way, when they're tracking a fly ball, 1, 2, 3, here comes the fence, boom. Okay, so it actually creates a much safer environment.
Part of this, this motion doesn't include anything about putting in a warning track, right?
No.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, I think that will be
And yeah,
done
I said that.
somehow.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Nope.
Does the boosters, are you looking at a warning track, small warning track?
We're looking at a number of things.
Okay.
Kind of a one-step-at-a-time approach.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a few things on our list. Doesn't mean we're going to come back here every 6 months.
Nope.
Okay, questions? More? You're right.
Thank you.
Anyone on this side? Okay, just maintenance and what do we, how often will we have to be out there and what does the Crown, What do they give us on terms of the fence? Is there anything that we need to be concerned with?
Not at all. It should be installed and done for years and years. Just mowing the grass or killing the grass right along the base of the fence so
Okay.
it doesn't.
And Crown Fence Company, do we know the kind of work that they've done in the past? Do we know where they've worked? And are we good with them if we decide to move forward with them?
All the fencing work that has been done in the district to date over the
Okay.
last 2 years has been done with Crown Fence.
Okay.
And they also, the only maintenance item would be the corrugated PVC on top
On
of the
top.
fence. That'll have to be checked on a regular basis to make sure it's installed properly.
Okay. If this gets approved tonight, when would the work be done?
Hopefully before Thanksgiving.
Okay, baseball season starts first day of training? Pitchers and catchers report?
Yeah, they report March 7th for the first day
March
of
7th.
tryouts. Yeah.
Okay.
And at that time, everyone knows what type of weather we have here in the Northeast at that moment. So, yeah, freeze, thaw, mushy surface, not good
Sure.
for digging.
Okay.
All right?
Any other questions on this? Okay, so there was a motion, seconded by Ms. Good, I believe, right? Yes. Okay, this is to approve the contract with the Crown Fence Company for installation of a home run fence for the varsity baseball field, the amount of $14,995, with the understanding that the Booster Club will be contributing $5,000 to the project. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Okay. Okay, we're moving on now to finance.
Okay, we're on
Dr. Resnick.
page 3 for the Finance Committee report and recommendations. I'll take the first two together, the first being the Treasurer's report, recommending that the Board accept the General Fund October 2015 Treasurer's report, the Food Service financial reports for September 2015, and the Upper Dublin High School Student Activity Accounts trial balance for October 2015. And number 2, recommending that the Board approve the vouchers as listed below.
Okay.
Second.
Second, Mr. Sirota. Comments or questions on items 1 and 2? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
On the bottom of page 3 and top of page 4, number 3, recommending that the Board approve the renewal of flood insurance coverage for both Sandy Run Middle School and Annex with the Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, National Flood Insurance Company in the amount of $6,775, each for a combined total of $13,550. That's from the budget of the 2015-2016 General Fund.
Second.
Okay, first and second, Mr. Sirota, second that. Okay, any comments or questions from the board? All those in favor, this is item 3. Please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Number 4.
Number 4, in accordance with the pronouncement of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, 54, it is recommended that the board commit $600,000 of the June 30, 2015 general fund balance as a follow-up to the establishment of the rate stabilization fund previously discussed and established by the board. This, I'll read the background on this. On June 1st, 2015, the Board of Directors approved the commitment of a portion of the June 30, 2015 general fund to reduce the impact of future group medical rate fluctuations. The recommended amount approximates 1 month of district's 2016 to 2017 health care expense.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Ludwig, second that motion. Comments or questions? We've been talking about this with Ms. Bray, I guess, back in May or June. Okay, and now that we know where we are with our fund balance, or we're close to knowing where we are with the fund balance, I should say, we can then move forward with committing $600,000, which is done in just most districts that I know of have this rate stabilization fund. Anything, Ms. Bray, to add?
No, it just helps with the final preparation of the financial statements, as you noted, to have the board take action on this.
Okay.
So when we finally receive the final financials, this piece, plus there's also $929,000, I believe, that the board has committed for
Hub.
repayment of HUB.
Hub, right.
And then it will be reflected within the general fund.
Okay. Yeah, and we've had some conversations also with Ms. Bray, how to present the information on where the different pots are within the general fund, or maybe perhaps in the fund balance.
Well,
So it's clear in the treasurer's report or in the,
How I think we want to move forward is to have our treasurer's report to include on a monthly basis the information within the capital reserve, as well as,
Yes.
and the capital reserve now includes any bond fund money that's remaining, plus the debt service fund. And currently, our treasurer's report doesn't do that. We do try to break down a little bit of the fund balance. If you'll look at the treasurer's report at the top there, it doesn't reflect everything as far as the $4.7 million, but the balance, or most of it.
where is that, Ms. Bray?
It's on
Help me.
page H2 at the top.
Which one, H?
H.
As in home run? Okay.
But again, this is only the general fund. It is not the debt service fund nor the capital reserve. So we've been looking, and actually some board members have shared other treasurer's report with us as well. Ultimately, or one of the major goals, is to use the software that we have, SunGuard, to actually generate the report more rather than relying on an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. Any other questions on item 4, the rate stabilization fund? We had a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
Number 5 is already discussed and
Mhm.
passed by the board. We'll take numbers 6 through 8 together. These are recommending that the board approve stipulation orders and settlement agreements on 3 different parcels. Unless somebody wants me to read it more
I
in more
don't.
detail. In the form presented.
In the form
Thank you.
presented. Okay, motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Dr. Ludwig. These are items 6, 7, and 8 in the finance report as presented. Although, no questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, and number 9.
Number 9, it is recommended that the board approve the Pro Buyers Document Management Program proposal in the amount of $14,500. Under the Pro Buyers proposal, the district's copier, printer services, and related costs will be analyzed after a 5-year contract with Fraser Advanced Information System.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Dr. Ludwig. Okay,
I guess one point to be made is
Yes.
that due to the use of Chromebooks for instruction, we anticipate a reduction of copier costs, and that's certainly a positive.
Ms. Bray, anything to add on this? Just, what are we doing here?
Well, we used ProBuyers when we went from having multiple vendors with multiple expiration of the lease dates. And we made some dramatic savings with the first 5-year program. And while if we hadn't had so many changes regarding the Chromebooks and using Zern and some of the different changes that we have regarding print, we might try not to go back and have somebody with this level of expertise. But ProBuyers has come into a number of other school districts now in Montgomery County, and they actually work across the United States and usually do a terrific job. Don't misunderstand. We're going to be relying on Phil and talking with principals and other people to determine what is a reasonable, number of copies and prints and how to manage that type of work moving forward.
Are we hoping to reduce the number of copiers and printers?
I certainly am.
Okay.
But we will have to see through conversation.
Okay, we we had a first, did we have
We
the
did have-
second on that?
Yes.
Good, excellent. Okay, first and second, this is item 9 in finance. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you, Troop 542. Thank you. It only gets better, it gets better, it gets better. Okay. Moving on to the personnel report. Ms.
Yes.
Good?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion that we approve all of the Personnel Committee recommendations that are on pages 5 through 7 in the packet here, and also the co-curricular appointments, which are in the attachments, packet M1 and M2.
Second.
Okay, second. Okay, Ms. Hester. Thank you, Anita. Okay. Okay, M1 and M2 is the co-curricular activities.
Yes.
Okay, first and second, any comments or questions on this? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the personnel report, including the co-curricular activities, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Moving on to policy.
Thank you. We have 3 motions tonight. First, to approve a second reading and adoption of policies 123, policy 231, and policy 921. All 3 of these policies were at our last meeting in October and were approved for first reading. The second motion is to approve the first reading of policies 122, policy 004, policy 004.1, and policy 301.1. All 4 of those policies have been reviewed by the policy committee, and the suggestions come out of our committee meeting. And the last motion tonight, we have the approval to approve the following administrative regulations, 123, 231, and 921. All of those go hand in hand with the second reading and policies that are being put forward for second reading and adoption tonight.
Second.
Okay, we have first and second on policy. Any comments or questions? Mr. Sirota.
I have 2. I just want to confirm that there's no substantive changes to the policies that we have for second reading since first reading. And could you summarize what's new about the
Employment
first
deferral.
reading policies?
So for the first question, right, there are no changes from the first reading to the second reading tonight. For the second question, for the first reading of the policies, I don't know, Ken, if you want to talk about this. The one that I can speak towards tonight, the membership policy 004, most of the information is going to be going into the administrative regulation. We'll see that at our next board meeting in December because we don't do the administrative regulations until the second reading. For 004.1, I think you, or 004.1, you can see from the motion, or from the policy, most of those changes. None of that's substantive either. For the 301.1, employment of relatives, this is the nepotism policy. What we're doing is taking out, or specifically excluding extracurricular activities. It's been the practice of the board, anytime someone comes forward that has a relative that's currently prohibited by this policy for extracurriculars, we always waive this policy, which means it's not really policy then. Our policy is that we're not using it for extracurricular. So we're just changing the policy to what we're actually, the actual practice of the board is.
Thank you.
As for policy 122 on the extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities, not really many changes to the policy. That they're mostly stylistic. The significant thing here is the creation of the administrative regulation, which didn't exist before, which sets forth in much more detail who's entitled to participate in the programs for extracurricular and co-curricular activities, particularly those students that actually don't attend Upper Dublin School District.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the policy section tonight?
How
Dr.
does
Ledwith.
our policy on nepotism or hiring of relatives compare to other school districts?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay.
It's a little on the, I would say, compared to other school districts, it's somewhat on the stringent side. It's, I mean, I don't know any other district that has one that's quite as restrictive as far as hiring of relatives.
So I have a follow-up question to Mr. Sigafus. Has the fact that this policy is very restrictive prevented us from hiring some good candidates? That if we had a policy that was more similar to what other school districts had, we might be able to hire?
We're fortunate in Upper Dublin that we usually have hundreds, if not into thousands, of applicants for a position. So we certainly don't have trouble finding quality, good candidates. But I would be remiss if I said we didn't turn away some simply because they are related to current employees, in the district. When we've been in that situation where we felt that we had a just reason to bring it forward, bring forward someone to you that would have a relative and would conflict with the policy. We've explained that circumstance and asked the board to consider waiving it. As long as there's, and I think we've done it very few times, but we've always made sure that certainly there was no supervision of the person. But yeah, I would say that we have lost some good candidates because of our policy, just because of the nature of eliminating them.
I'm sure there are other candidates who just don't apply because they know it's against the policy. So we wouldn't necessarily see all of those.
Well, furthermore, anytime you make exceptions to a hiring policy, you run the risk of appearing arbitrary and even potentially discriminatory.
Is it the plan of the policy committee to have some additional discussions on this policy?
Yes, it is. It's something actually that we talked about at our last policy committee meeting, was to go through and take a look at this. One of the things that we would need to do is look at the other school districts and looking at their policies and figuring out what would be the best policy for us, whether we would like to keep this one or look at something less restrictive. But at this time, since all policies take a couple of months to pass, we figured we would start with this to eliminate the extracurriculars, since that's one we are consistently waiving.
Right. I'm sure Mr. Chmielewski and I feel like this is deja vu all over again.
I was just going to say that this is a policy
Yes.
that reaches back from the grave. It just keeps coming back.
Deja vu all over
again. This was one of those things we discussed numerous times over the years, and a lot of it was we wanted to allow the district to tell us if it was useful for them or not. And back many years ago, the feeling was that it was actually more helpful than less helpful. However, it's probably a good time for us to, while we're reviewing all this, to have that look at it again, to see whether or not we are in fact turning people away who might, and should we revise this. There have been horror stories at other districts over the years of nepotism that we've always wanted to avoid. But I do think this is hyper restrictive. So let's talk about it again.
I wouldn't want to go too far the other way, but I'd be interested in seeing if, a study of other districts, we should maybe relax it a little bit.
It's easy to say, I don't know how. We'll have to have those discussions. I always give an example of, this can go either way. Perhaps there's a custodian in the district whose son wants to teach, custodian, or it could be the other way. Maybe perhaps there's a teacher in the district whose son is interested in being a custodian. At this point, I believe, no interview. They cannot be hired in the district. So you could, but it's just, so we'll look at this. Mr. Chmielewski.
Yeah, and this has been part of our policy for a while. It says, however, an applicant for a teaching or administrative position will not be disqualified under this policy based on the applicant having a relative that is employed by the district as a classified employee. So I guess if you have an employee who is, say, a janitor in one of the elementary schools and has a son who's looking to get a teaching position at the high school, they wouldn't be disqualified because of that relationship. But this policy was brought together at a time when it was a very hot issue in the district, and I think it was a far overreach compared to what we see in surrounding districts. When you start talking about aunts and uncles and first cousins and nephews and nieces, I don't think you see that in other policies in our peer districts. So it may be something that we could relax at least some of the relationships because I think it was quite an overreach back then. Now, we spoke about this, maybe 2 years ago, and the administration felt that at that time that it was helpful to have this policy in place because then it didn't put you in an awkward position of having to say no to certain people because it was part of policy. And I think we went with that in our last conversation. But if you find that there are applicants that either we're having to send away or possibly we find out later that they didn't apply because of some remote relationship, it may be something we want to look at.
Could the policy committee, maybe after they look at some of the other districts, come up with maybe 1 or 2 recommendations of edits, like 2 samples that we could look at?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think we should take a look at a couple different other ones and
Yeah,
not
that's
just
the
look
plan.
at the policies, but also, make sure that they're not having problems in these other districts with the policies, and so that we can find one that suits our needs.
Okay. So, to be continued? To be continued. Okay, we have anything else on the policy items for tonight? Okay, we had a first, we had a second. This is the approval of the 3 sections in policy, the second reading, the first reading of four items, I guess. It says A, B, C, C, A, B, C, D. And then 3 items in the administrative regulations. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on to other business, I'll move this along. There's a recommendation that the board approve, we'll take the words draft out. It's not really a draft, according to the solicitor. It is the 2016-2017 school district calendar. We can always come back and make changes, revisions to the calendar. So at this point, this is the motion is to approve the proposed school district calendar, 2016-2017 school year. Okay, we have first and a second. This was precipitated by the discussions we had with the PTO, PTAs, asking us questions when Mr. Sirota was present, and they just felt it would be important if we can kind of bring this up a little bit sooner than we normally do. So, Mr. Sigafus and the rest of the administration, thank you for finding time to put this calendar together. Can you summarize the differences with this calendar? I mean, there's 1 or 2 things that are significant in the calendar.
First of all, sure, we're reverting back to our practice of starting after Labor Day.
First of all,
So-
where is it? Where is it?
The calendar is on the attachment sheet. Yep. So September 6th will be the first official day for students to start. That's the Tuesday after Labor Day. One of the differences is that we have 4 in-service days before the start of school. A lot of times we just have 3 days. But taking into account, some of the Jewish holidays, they fall into October, so they space themselves pretty well. So the in-service day we wouldn't have normally put in October, we sort of front-loaded for the start of the school year. So October wasn't encumbered with another day of non-student day for the in-service. November 8th at this point is the election day, so we typically do that. This still provides for a week of winter break and spring break. along with our other typical dates, and it gets us to end that last full second week of June, June 16th. So we have 3 snow days, of course, built into the calendar. So if we use them, we end June 16th. If we don't use them, students and the community get 3 extra teaching days. If we go beyond 3, then we have to make them up. So that's pretty much the basic. Everything else is pretty good. But in fact, with the winter holidays falling on the weekends, that was a little bit of a nuance for this year with them being celebrated. So we have a shorter week during that winter break week as far as working for 12-month employees. But those are pretty much the nuances.
Okay, and also, you'll notice January 2nd, which is a Monday, you'd first think that should be a school day, but that is the day that New Year's Day is celebrated, on the Monday. So all districts, I've seen districts in the area, they're all observing that Monday, January 2nd, as a holiday.
Correct, yep.
Yep. Okay. There was a motion and a second. Any questions or comments about calendar? So we can get this out to all of our PTOs, PTAs, and parents in general.
Post on the website.
Yep, post it on the website. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we have a second other business recommendation. This is recommended that the board approve a contract with Mr. Robin McConnell, retired school administrator, to facilitate the upcoming meetings for the task force for exploration of potential restructuring or realignment option. The hourly rate is $85 per hour, and the total contract is not to exceed $3,000 for services and approved expenses. So the hourly rate is, we'll eliminate that word for. Okay, motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, comments or questions?
I have a question.
Mr.
Who is Mr. McConnell? Has he done this before regarding restructuring?
Yep.
Or some information on that?
Okay. Can anybody help us? I know Dr. Wheeler has worked with him, and I know there was a meeting, planning meeting with Mr. McConnell. His experiences?
I mean, I can speak to his credentials.
I believe he
worked
was-
with him for over
He was a TE, I
15
believe.
years.
Yes.
He was he's recently retired Director of Assessment and Instructional Technology at Tredyffrin East Down School District. He's been a senior administrator there for well over 15 years. He has strong academic background in many departments, especially math. And that's just what I know off the top of my head.
My impression was that we were not hiring him for his expertise in the subject matter, but as a facilitator of the meeting so that the people on the committee can focus on the content of the meetings.
Correct. Anything else? Mike? Okay. Okay, this is item 2, other business, the contract for facilitator services. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. We are up to our liaison committee reports. Mr. Shimeleski?
All right, the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit Board did not meet in October. It was one of those rare circumstances where we did not have a quorum that would be present, so the meeting was canceled. But we will have, our next meeting is next Wednesday, November 18th.
Thank you, sir. Montgomery County Legislative Committee, Ms. Hester?
Although we were scheduled for last month, the meeting was canceled. So we're scheduled for another meeting next Wednesday, November 18th.
Okay, Eastern, again, congratulations to Katya and to Nicole for Students of the Month at Eastern. And Eastern will be meeting this Wednesday. We have a special Joint Operating Committee dinner recognition prior to our meeting. At that meeting, in addition to inviting all the superintendents that are represented at Eastern, this year we invited the high school principals and middle school principals to join us and learn more about what goes on at Eastern. So I look forward to Wednesday night. EAC, Dr. Ludwig?
The EAC met last Wednesday and approved a report that most of the work was done last year. It is on diversity, and I will be forwarding that to the rest of the board for our review and approval. The next meeting will be the first Wednesday in December. I don't have the exact date.
How's membership there now?
That all the new members are active and committees have been formed, they're working, and the membership, the actual membership is up to 17, but it's not too big a group, and they have 4 committees working this year, and it's working pretty well.
Okay, thank you. PTA, PTO, Mr. Sirota or Mr. Kim?
We have the
Sorry.
next combined leadership meeting of the PTAs, PTOs, and other community organizations scheduled for January 20th here at 7 o'clock. The agenda is not fully set yet, but it will include a technology update and other items to be figured out sometime between now and then.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not, Mr. Kim, do you have anything else?
Did you, nothing? Okay, Mrs. Shemaleski, Township?
I have no report on that. I know they did have a meeting. I was ill that day, so I don't have anything for that.
Okay. Upper Dublin Education Foundation, Ms. Good?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes,
Foundation has been busy. I just want to let everyone know that this Sunday, November 15th, the Public Library and the Ed Foundation are co-sponsoring a book barter at the library. It's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. There's a suggested donation of $5. However, it's just suggested. Any of the proceeds then get split between the foundation and the library, but it's a good opportunity to bring out your old books and get some new books and swap them, and it's just a community event that we're looking forward to sponsoring, and we hope we see you all there.
Is there an annual appeal coming out pretty soon?
The annual appeal is coming out. You'll probably get that first week of December.
Okay.
Is there a date for Monte Carlo night?
The rumor has it that there is a date, and it is February 20th, so please mark your calendars. Monte Carlo night is back.
Okay. In the snow. Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Solicitor's report, Mr. Roos.
Yes, thank you. We advised the board that last week, the United States Department of Justice Office of Civil Rights had found that a Chicago high school had discriminated against a transgender student, male to female transgender high school student, basically for failing to provide full access to girls' locker rooms, and basically threatened to withhold the federal funding for that district if they continued to do so. The Office of Civil Rights found that the district had denied the student access to the girls' locker rooms in violation of Title IX because it only offered separate facilities to change clothes for this student for PE classes and athletic facilities. So this is obviously becoming a very hot topic in the school districts all over the country, and you'll see more decisions like this, I predict.
Okay, thank you, sir. This at this time is we'll open up the meeting to our second community input. If anybody would like to address the board, this is the time. State your name and part of the community that you live in. Limited to 4 minutes. Ms. Cologne.
Good evening, Tanya Cologne, Fort Washington. I really don't have a question, but just follow up to Dr. Resnick. I believe at the last school board meeting, you were asking Mrs. Morrison about reference to grades, like in reference, like if an A is equivalent to an A within the same department, but with different teachers. And maybe I think you guys went a little bit further to bell curves. As a parent, I can tell you, I wanted to come up for the second community input to let you know, ironically, I had a conversation with a teacher because I was experiencing something like that same day. So earlier that day, I had a conversation. And this is what I will share. Without disclosing specifics, I will tell you within the same 2 AP classes, within the same department, an A or a B, the letter grade is not the same because one teacher may, it could be the same assignment, but one will grade it the other, may grade it lesser, harsher, add more points, or one may be more, or the other teacher may be more subjective. So with that being said, a conversation was had that I was happy that the teacher had with me, that I said, this is probably why we have a lot of students and parents who, you have teacher requests, or you have things that come about, situations that come about where students may want a teacher or may feel a certain way if they either have the harder graded teacher or the lesser graded teacher. So the point that I'm trying to make is maybe if there's consistency within a department. Another example also is that this happened 2 years ago within the middle school. If you're given the same kind of assessment, which it could be, let's say if it's a test, but one teacher is making that test worth, let's say 40% of the grade, and the other teacher is making it worth 60% of the grade, well, it's not the same. So there are inconsistencies within the departments, and maybe if the teachers and the department head can meet and come with just a consistent plan that no matter who you have within your department, you will have the same value of your letter grade. And this is not with tracking, it has nothing to do with tracking, it's within the specific subject area. So I hope I provide some information. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the board? Okay, we will close community input. And Ms. Morrison, any response to Ms. Cologne's statement, or?
Sure, I agree with you 100%. I think that students should have a guaranteed experience, and we are systematically working through our curriculum to back design and have common assessments. And I would say, even in my experience as world language supervisor as a department, we had the same attribution of grades, and we continue to work toward that. Interestingly, we've been working sequentially through the grade levels, and AP is often a more advanced grade level, but thank you for bringing it to our attention again.
Okay, I also wanted to take a moment to announce that at the conclusion of our education committee last week, on November 2nd, the board met in executive session to discuss personnel matters. That should be reflected in the minutes. Comments from board members? Okay. Cabinet? Okay. Just a reminder that busy times ahead. Facilities, Thursday, November 19th at 9 a.m. Finance, same day, 6 p.m. Policy, I guess November 30th is also a busy day. 1:30 to 3:30 is policy. And then we'll have the Education Committee meeting at 6 p.m. The reorganization meeting is scheduled for Monday, first Monday of the month, December 7th, 2015 at 6 p.m., where the board members who just won the election will be sworn in. And then following that meeting, there will be an executive session. There will be no regular committee meeting or legislative meeting the day of the reorganization. Our next legislative meeting is scheduled for Monday, December 14th at 7 p.m. We may move that location because those are our students, right? So we may be in the cafeteria. We're honoring many, many students, athletic and academic students that night. Seeing no other comments from the board, motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Good. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for coming.